Welcome back, guys. This is Gaming with Austin. Today, we're going towards episode 67 of the Utopian Community series. Change game mode. Creative. Much better. Much better. My biggest reason for gun control is animal welfare. But look at Iceland. They have it pretty balanced between gun rights and gun control. They have it pretty balanced. They have it pretty balanced, actually. Even though farmers bust their asses, they get paid poorly, unfortunately. A lot of times they make poverty wages. They deserve better. The fate of some high school dropouts is they become farmers. That is the fate of some high school dropouts. They end up working out on the farms. For me, I'd rather appoint a hunt. And I'm punching down those trees right now. What's wrong with the Second Amendment? Most gun-related deaths are due to suicide. But the most common method of homicide is using a gun to kill someone. My biggest reason why I'm in favor for an argument in favor of gun control is it'll protect our animals. Because in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, animal hunting is a form of animal abuse. You're hurting a wild animal for no reason. The argument against gun control is it can lead to more terrorism. It can lead to more terrorism. Because look at the Manchester disaster. In Manchester, UK during an Ariana Grande concert. An argument for gun control is it'll protect our animals. That's my argument for gun control. And it'll also reduce, because look at the mass shootings that happen in Europe. They're pretty rare. Why I'm in favor of the reason to start imposing a maximum wage ceiling for CEOs is for the greater good of the working class. Because our working classmen deserve more respect. My opinion... One argument that puts me in favor of gun control is I'd rather go for protecting our animals. Mass shootings... The problem with gun control is, in a time of war, gun control can get pretty dangerous. Especially if they impose gun control in the middle of a war zone. If they impose gun control in the middle of a war zone, things can get really awful. If they impose gun control in the middle of a war zone. Because where do most of those extremists at work get their guns? Where do they get their guns? Some of those guns they get come from North Korea. Who do I comprise as an axis of evil? If Nazi Germany was still here today, I'd add that country to that list of the worst places to live. Even as a German citizen, life was tough even if you were German. If you were Nazi Germany. You had no freedom. You had no freedom. Even you had to work for your basic needs. And they were not... No, most of those needs went towards the military. Life was tough in Nazi Germany, even though I wasn't alive in World War II. We need to learn from our past that slavery is wrong. We need to learn from our past that slavery is wrong. Just like how the Germans learned from their past about Nazism. To make sure something like that does not happen again. My stance... We need a balance between gun rights and gun control. The only way to solve... Who's the one that's causing all the authoritarianism on the rise? Our government's the one that's responsible for most of the rise in authoritarianism. Which is pretty sad. Basically sort of like a self-coup. Similar to what you see in Revenge of the Sith. When Lord Sidious overthrew the galactic... Like... This is what happens when you play both sides of the war. When you play as a good guy when, in fact, while secretly being an evil person. Something like that happened when Hitler was appointed Chancellor. Something like ethnic cleansing is really bad. It screws with our diversity. Most of us would like a diverse society. Because we need to expose ourselves to different cultures too. Instead of being stuck on the same culture, we need to expose ourselves to different cultures. That's what we need. And eventually, as workers start rising against their masters for a living wage, eventually it would go towards violence and civil unrest. What's even worse, if Trump started imposing a legal minimum wage for the CEOs, in which they're not allowed to cut their salaries any lower than what the government would allow. Because it's not just Amazon workers that get paid poorly. Our farmers get paid poorly too. Which is just as bad. What's just as bad? Our Amazon workers are getting paid poorly too. It's just as bad. This is why we need to have capitalism abolished. Wage theft is not only common in Amazon, it's also common in a lot of big businesses too. Even big agriculture takes part in wage theft too. Which is pretty bad. Which is just as bad. What we need to do is impose a maximum wage ceiling for the CEOs, aka the bourgeoisie. One thing I discovered is it's not just humans that fell victim to slavery. Animals fall victim too in modern era, in modern times. It's not just humans that fall victim. Animals fall victim too, which is just as bad. Shit's gonna get a whole lot worse when shit gets pretty bad when animals start revolting against their master. Because they've been abused for years, and they want to fight back against their captors. At least they're doing their job getting revenge on their masters for abusing them. My stance towards animal hunting is, it's just wrong. It's animal abuse. It's pretty bad. See, animals get abused out in the wild, too. By crazy assholes. Who would steal the... Sometimes they would snatch them have an affair with them, which is pretty bad. Sometimes they find a carcass and do their thing on the carcass, which is pretty disgusting. They are desecrating a carcass, which is pretty disgusting. Just like how necrophiles desecrate their corpses. It's also known as defiling a corpse. Desecration involving mounting someone is rape. Even if a cow dies from natural causes, you shouldn't eat cattle in India because you're desecrating the carcass of a cow. Or a bull. You're defiling the carcass of a cow or a bull. I'd rather not defile. Defiling means to desecrate. Some people are so perverted they would defile their corpses for satisfaction. Which is pretty disgusting. If you've heard of Halo before, you know what I'm talking about. There's this thing you can do to taunt your enemies. It's called teabagging. It's called teabagging. People defile corpses in Halo like that to taunt their enemies. As a way to insult their enemies. Piss them off. If I was playing Halo or Call of Duty, I'd do that. Once I kill my enemies. I think it's pretty funny to taunt your enemies by doing that. What's disgusting? Europe has some gun control. In fact, most of them have the right amount of gun control. Too much gun control can cause more harm than good. Just the right amount would do the trick. The New York Post tends to have some really hilarious puns in their front cover, which is pretty funny. Like with the Beatles' secrets. Paul McCartney and John Lennon. With Paul McCartney and John Lennon. If I ended up reorganizing the Beatles with Paul McCartney, with Paul McCartney, he revealed the secrets about what the Beatles did in their free time. In the news article by the New York Post called Beat the Beatles. It's pretty funny. Come together! Come together! Like, it's one of the puns for the Beatles. Mom? Okay. I'll pause. Got that, Mom? Sorry about that long pause. I had to do a task. Much better. One thing Hitler did that was pretty bad was he put a lot of people in poverty. Through his actions. With militarism. Not anti-democracy. Being against democracy. I'm in favor of democracy. Every gun owner should need a license before they can get a gun. We shouldn't just do that, we also need mass surveillance, too. Even though people would risk a death sentence if they were caught leaving North Korea, some people still risk their lives just for freedom. I'm almost done. Get that right there. And no. Yeah. And almost 2 years ago, someone decided to pull a pretty funny prank by altering the Hollywood sign for it to say Hollyweed. It was actually pretty funny. If I was the one responsible for it, my friends would be laughing their asses off. But I really wasn't the one who pulled that prank. That'd be funny if I was... Well, it would suck if I ended up in jail for that prank. What sucks is that our Amazon workers are poorly paid. Same thing with most of our farmers, even if they're documented workers. The biggest factor behind the rise in antibiotic-resistant superbugs, it rolls down to one thing: intensive animal farming. It's not only bad for the environment, but it's causing a rise in illness. Which is pretty bad. If you ask me, it's pretty bad. The main reason they loaded animals up with so many antibiotics that bacteria started evolving to resist the antibiotics, promote rapid growth. Sometimes animals were drugged with drugs that would otherwise be illegal. Like, yes, I'm talking about anabolic steroids. You know, the reason why some people get lazy is that by nature, most animals end up being lazy out of survival. Because in the Stone Age, it was good to be lazy out of... And that was done out of survival back in the Stone Age. To conserve our energy. England had some pretty strict gun laws, yet it did not stop Manchester bombing. What we need is bomb-sniffing dogs at every concert venue. Metal detectors in our hotels. Bomb-sniffing dogs at our theme parks. To make sure no one brings a bomb. Because look at Boston Marathon bombing. This is it for this video. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video, dislike if you disliked it, subs if you loved it. And as always, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more, and peace out.